Hi, everybody. I'm Rebecca Rettig. I'm the CLO at Judo Labs, and I'm thrilled to be joined today, as Miller said, on stage by Commissioner Summer Mersinger of the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission. She is also the incoming CEO of the Blockchain Association, but she's here today in her CFTC capacity. And Giovanni Vicioso, who's the global head of cryptocurrency products at the CME Group. So today is going to be focused a lot on the derivatives conversation in the crypto space, and we are tight on time, so we're going to jump right in, and we have a lot to cover. So Gio, about 2 months ago, on March 17th, Sol Futures had their first day of trading on the CME Derivatives Exchange. Yes, very exciting. Starting off strong, can you explain the significance of having Sol Futures on the CME? And what it means? It's also thought to be a precursor to something like an ETF of the underlying asset. And can you talk a little bit about how that all works?
No, for sure. Thank you, Rebecca, for the question. And thank you, Solana Labs, for the opportunity, because it's really events like this that just help accelerate the cryptocurrency ecosystem, right? Because it's where institutions can come and learn, and it's really the adoption of the underlying technology, such as the Solana blockchain, that could really help uncover efficiencies, capital efficiencies and operational efficiencies for the industry. And that's really what's going to drive value to the underlying coins, such as SOL, and drive the interest in products such as the ones offered by CME Group. Now, the introduction of SOL futures in March really marked a new era for crypto for us, because I think it really marked a period where we're seeing, say, greater regulatory clarity, greater regulatory comfort. And it really marks an end, really. It's almost like a renaissance, if you will, kind of like marking the end of the dark ages, and really signaling now that there's clear rules of the road, if you will, in terms of helping this ecosystem grow, right? When we look at what drove, it's having that regulatory clarity is important, but it's also having client demand. And with Solana, we saw it was our most requested product following Bitcoin and Ether, right? So we were really happy with that. So having regulatory clarity, having client demand, and then also having supports from liquidity providers. I see Thomas there, and I think of Jane Street, but having the support of liquidity providers as well as clearing firms also helps drive, say, growth in the space. This was the first time that we launched both an institutional size contract as well as micro contracts. So we're really seeing interest from both institutions as well as retail participants. And it's also the first, so Solana marked, it was the third cryptocurrency on which we launched futures on. The last time we launched a futures contract was 2021, that was Ether, right? So it really marked another milestone in terms of the maturity of the space, and really cementing CME's commitment to continue to drive growth in this space. In terms of ETFs, like you mentioned, I think when you look at what we've done, say, with our products at CME, we've really created very trusted products, very liquid products that really serve as the underlying bedrock, if you will, on which these ETFs can grow. Right? When you look at how these markets are integrated, where you've got spot, you've got futures, you have ETFs. The liquidity providers and the authorized participants for the ETFs really rely on the liquidity and the trust offered by our product set, and it's helped these ETFs grow tremendously. And with Solana, we now have a futures-based ETF offered by Volatility Shares, and there's also 4 spot-based ETFs in Canada already. So we're super excited with that launch.
Yeah, amazing. Commissioner, so to move on to what you've seen over your tenure in crypto at the CFTC, what do you think are the most important advancements in the crypto space that fall within the CFTC's jurisdiction since you began there in 2022?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I do have to give a quick disclaimer that the views I express today are my own and not necessarily those of the CFTC or my fellow commissioners. We've seen a lot of exciting movement in this space since I've been a commissioner, and even before when I was at the agency. Certainly what Gio's talking about, it's exciting. We've seen a huge growth in the participation in those contracts that he mentioned. We're starting to see these perp-like products come on. They're not quite perpetuals, but certainly longer durations. And there's just a lot of excitement around these new products. We're seeing new market participants come in, that a lot of retail, a lot of interest there. So it's been a very big evolution, and certainly we welcome the innovation at the agency.
Makes sense. And I know you're exiting, but what do you think are the most important advancements the CFTC could make as it relates to crypto, in the next 4 years?
Yeah, absolutely. We need to open the door to allow perpetuals. Like I said, we've got kind of perpetual-like products that are trading, but it's time to allow those to be on our registered exchanges. And we need to make sure that we are keeping the door open for new types of market registrations and market entrants. We are already seeing new people into our space, some of them through buying existing registrations that, from an existing registrant, or they're going through the application process. We need to make sure that our principles fit this new market structure. We can do that under our existing remit. We can look at our rules and make sure that they are fit for purpose. And that's really going to open up this space. And what would hopefully happen is we have a lot more of what's been offshore trading come back into the US markets.
Yeah. And we didn't sort of talk about this in our prep session, but as you were talking about the core principles and just thinking about what the CFTC does and where the market is going, including bringing in new registrants, intermediation is such a core concept that underlies what the CFTC does. But there is such great interest in DeFi, where there may not always be someone who's intermediated in the system. And how do you think about what the CFTC can do going forward to accommodate those types of new markets and participants there?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, we're seeing more disintermediation within traditional markets as well. And I think there's a lot of efficiencies there. So, again, the markets, they move on their own, they evolve on their own, and our job is to keep up, but not somehow hold back that innovation. So I think there are some areas of our rules that we need to take a look at and make sure that the customer protections that need to be in place are in place in a more disintermediated model. We should probably do that through rulemaking versus kind of one-off orders. But at the end of the day, again, this is where the market's changing, the structure's evolving, and we need to make sure we are keeping up.
Yeah, makes sense. So to pick up on what the commissioner was saying about perps and perpetuals, perps are very popular in crypto, but obviously not traded in the US. And the CFTC just issued a request for comment on the trading of clearing in perps and how that can work in US markets. CME has long been at the forefront of digital derivatives. And how does CME think about strategy when advancing some of these new and novel products, and how those could undermine or otherwise impact some of your legacy products?
Yeah, so CME has been innovating now for over 180 years, right? And I think that we're at an interesting time, right? Because we continue to see, say, new institutional participants come into the space, the real bedrock of our business. But in addition to institutions, we're also seeing new investors come in. We're seeing, say, self-directed traders come into the space. And when you look at something like perpetuals, these perpetual contracts are attractive to some of those new participants. When you start to scale back and see what's important or what's popular, say, about these products, it's their small size, it's their operational ease, it's the capital efficiencies that they offer, and liquidity, right? So when you look at those things, right, and look at what we can do, well, we announced just last month, we announced what we're calling spot-quoted futures. Now, these spot-quoted futures products are long-dated futures contracts. In this case, it's going to be a one-year futures contract. They're going to be small in terms of size. We're looking at 1/100th of a Bitcoin, 2/10 of an Ether. So in terms of notional size, less than about 1,000 for Bitcoin, about $500 for Ether. So very small. These contracts are going to be, you don't have to roll them as often because it's a one-year contract. So you got the operational ease. These are going to be regulated contracts. So the point that you made, all these perpetual contracts exist on unregulated offshore entities, by unregulated platforms. These products will be offered by CME Group, a long-standing regulated entity. And we anticipate that these products are also going to be fairly liquid, right? So we're super excited. In addition to that, and to the point that you made then in terms of, will it say cannibalize our existing set of products? I think it will enhance, because it's really bringing a different type of client. Imagine a client that expects a movement, say in Bitcoin and Ether, and they want to best capitalize on that move. The right product may be spot quoted, as opposed to a client who's looking to maybe hedge some longer term exposure, where a futures contract, say our monthly or quarterly contracts, may be more appropriate for that client. So I think they're really going to bring new participants in. The other thing that I'll mention is that we're not just offering this for Bitcoin and Ether, we're also offering it for S&P, NASDAQ, Dow, and Russell. So we're also allowing market participants that ability then to diversify and not just hold all eggs in one basket, if you will.
And how do you think about attracting a new customer base wanting these types of products? What types of steps have you done, or do you plan to take when things open up in the US?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So we've been working very closely with retail platforms. So there's a lot of interest from the likes, like for example, Robinhood recently integrated into our space. So there's interest from firms like that, as well as others, Interactive Brokers, Plus 500, globally as well. So we're super excited to continue working with partners and helping to grow this new product set.
Great. So let's cap off today's discussion. I know we have a little bit of time left, but I think there's a lot to say, to talk about the discussion draft of the new market structure bill that was put out by the House Financial Services Committee and the House Ag Committee a few weeks ago. The discussion draft of the bill creates brand new jurisdiction in the United States for spot crypto trading for a new asset class that they're calling digital commodities, and creates new types of entities that must register with the CFTC, so digital commodities exchanges, digital commodity brokers, and dealers. Commissioner, can you explain why you think this new category or this new jurisdiction is needed, and how do you think about opening up jurisdiction for the CFTC?
Yeah, absolutely. The CFTC actually, as it stands, we have anti-fraud and anti-manipulation oversight over cash crypto trading. But the unfortunate thing when you are going in with a new enforcement authority is that something bad has already happened. The customer's funds were lost, fraud has occurred, manipulation has occurred. So the idea is, if you can create a regulated space and bring in these markets into the registration process, the oversight process, examination process, you're going to be able to put some safeguards in place so that there's hopefully less of the situations where you're coming in where there's fraud and manipulation. I think the other piece to this, we hear a lot of people talk about crypto fraud. I think that's a bit of a misnomer, because it's just fraud.
Right.
It's not new. It's just the crypto wrapper around fraud. I think when there's a safe place for retail participants to come and trade and be in the cash crypto market, I think that's going to help draw those interested parties away from the temptation of getting caught up in some of these fraudulent schemes that we are seeing.
Yeah, and I think help bring more crypto trading onshore, like
Yes.
you were both talking about.
Yep.
So quickly, so there's an arm of the CFTC called Lab CFTC. It's actually been around since 2017, but we haven't heard a lot from it of late. And it's the arm of the CFTC that's meant to promote innovation in fintech, including in crypto. And it had done a lot back in the day. And one of the pieces of the market structure bill is it brings Lab CFTC back into the fore and makes it a really important part of opening up this spot jurisdiction. Can you talk a little bit about what Lab CFTC's role would be under this market structure bill, and what you think it should be doing going forward, aside from market structure or not?
Yeah, absolutely. Lab CFTC, as you said, it's been around since 2017. It actually was renamed under the previous chairman as the Office of Technology and Innovation. I think part of the reason that there is a kind of statutory codification of this division within the market structure bill is because it is a little bit subject to the whims of the chair. And I think the House Agriculture and Financial Services Committees recognize that it's a very important division within the CFTC. It really does serve as a bridge between industry and the policy divisions at the agency. People can come in, they're much more comfortable speaking with people who understand innovation, who are kind of on the forefront of this technology, sitting down with them, talking through their business models. And then it's almost a connection service, almost like a dating service, where then they'll bring in the appropriate staff from the divisions. It can be very overwhelming when you look at our structure. Where do I go? What's the right policy division? Lab CFTC can bridge that gap. And they become the true experts at the agency as well. They're who we go to when we have questions. They help us learn and educate the commissioners and the staff about what's coming, where's the technology, where's innovation headed. And I would really love to see Lab CFTC become more of this kind of technology-based division within the agency. We have a lot of new products coming online. We have a lot of new market structures. And I think you could really use some of the expertise that we have throughout the agency, bring them into Lab CFTC, and have that kind of be the hub for a lot of the new products and new market innovations that we're seeing. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And I was really pleased to see the discussion draft codify that division within the agency.
I think my favorite part of this whole panel is describing Lab CFTC as like a dating service for innovation. So I guess that means we should all go in and date the CFTC a little bit. But Gio, given the shifting landscapes on regulation and legislation coming forward and how the digital asset market is moving, what do you think lies ahead and what's next for the CME?
Yeah, that's a great question, and like I mentioned at the beginning, we are in a new era of crypto. But I think for us, it's still continuing to develop our existing product set, Bitcoin, Ether, and of course our more recently launched products. We talked about Solana earlier, but just this past Sunday we also launched XRP. So we'll continue to develop those in-market products, and we're always talking to clients, always listening to where else can we help. In their journey. So we really look forward to continue those conversations and working with other partners as well, and just helping to continue grow this ecosystem.
Great. So with the time we have left, and it's coming to a close, but I'm interested to hear what you're both most excited about let's say the next year, of what types of innovations or advancements we can make in crypto, and if it touches something in the Solana ecosystem, even better.
I could start, and I don't want to steal any of Gio's thunder, but I do think tokenized collateral within our clearinghouse system, that to me is really exciting. It's going to solve for a lot of problems that we see when you start talking about margin calls, intraday margin calls, late day margin calls. The idea that you could have tokenized collateral moving in that system, I think, is really exciting and has a lot of opportunity. I do think seeing perpetual perps come back on shore and be in the United States and regulated by the CFTC is an exciting opportunity for the agency, and I think just for the United States economy to have that trading activity here on shore. And just the new market structures we're seeing. It's a very different world, and we are seeing new and innovative ideas all the time. And you almost can't wait to see what comes in the door next, to see what efficiencies people can bring to the market.
And I agree with you, Commissioner Mersinger. I feel look forward, say, to stablecoin bill finally being approved, because I think that's going to really help further propel this industry forward. And for me, like personally, CME, we've got 6 asset classes, so I'm really looking forward to that 7th asset class coming along the line pretty soon.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time today and for being here.